Welcome, everybody. This is the Rotary eClub of Silicon Valley, and we are here, as we are every week, in order to welcome people, not just to our little club, but also to the wonderfully cool, innovative ideas that are out there about entrepreneurship, education, innovation. And for that purpose, we connect with people who are doing interesting things around the world. We want them to talk to us about the kinds of ideas that might inspire others to find ways to bring improvement to communities that might need it, this kind of thing. So with us today, we have, for the second time in several weeks, an innovator from South Africa. And Stefan Louw is the principal of a group called Innovate SA. He's going to tell us more about that team. And I hope that you are going to find that this is the kind of thing that you will want to make happen in your own community as well. And so, Stefan, I will let you introduce yourself in more detail, and welcome to the Rotary eClub of Silicon Valley.
Great, thanks so much. It's really a great pleasure to be part of this presentation, and thank you so much for all the members and guests of the Rotary eClub from Silicon Valley for listening. I'll switch across to the presentation then. So, thanks again for listening to this presentation on going from Aid in Africa to Made in Africa. My name is Stefan Louw. If you'd like to get in contact, I have my website details here and my email address if you'd like to get in touch. And just to give you a quick background on who I am, my background is that I studied mechatronics engineering in Cape Town. I got really interested in sustainable development, community development, and working with youth. And I'm so now studying a degree in grassroots innovation for development. And then in 2013, we started an organization called Innovate South Africa. And what we do is a few different programs. One of them is Innovate the Cape, which I'll speak about today. But besides that, we also do a web development program for girls. And that really gives them an introduction to the IT sector. But to give you a background on Innovate the Cape, it all started with a friend of mine who was spending some time in Sierra Leone and got in contact with an organization called Global Minimum. And one of the members of Global Minimum from the MIT Media Lab wanted to run a program in Sierra Leone that was based on one of the programs that they do at MIT. And how that works is basically they go around asking students for innovative solutions to challenges that they see and give them $500 roughly to prototype a solution. So they went to Sierra Leone to try this in the high schools there with an innovation competition, and were really blown away by what they saw there. So the first winner of the Innovate Salone competition is a boy called Calvin Doe. He calls himself DJ Focus, and what he did was go around and teach himself how to work with electronics. He would find scrap electronics and garbage bins and so on, and he made his own radio station out of scrap materials. So he won the first competition, and it's a really inspiring story. If you want to watch the video, it's had 9 million views on YouTube. You can check out the link here. So Grant returned to Cape Town, and we started a similar innovation competition called Innovate the Cape. The way that Innovate the Cape works is that we go around to schools doing presentations and idea generation workshops where we ask students to come up with solutions to challenges in their communities. And so they submit their ideas to us in groups of 2 to 5 students. And what they can win is up to $1,500 to prototype their solutions. So they start out with $500. We give them mentors, do workshops with them, and they have roughly 3 months to prototype a solution. At the end of this period, they then do a pitch to us, to our judges, and can win a further $1,000. And we try to give them as much support as we can through other programs, etc. So who we are is largely a volunteer-based group, mainly made up of students and young professionals, mostly linked to the University of Cape Town. So we've had many really inspiring innovators come through our program. These are a few pictures of workshops that we've held in various venues around Cape Town. If you'd like to read more stories about what our innovators have done, I've put a link here for you to check out. But the projects that they work on range from education projects to environmental, transport, health, etc. So it's really anything that students feel very passionate about changing in their communities. So to run through a few of the projects that we've worked with, our winners from last year were a group called Spiritines. And what they did was try to battle malnutrition through growing spirulina. So spirulina is a microalgae that contains up to 70% protein. And so what they wanted to do was develop low-cost products such as smoothies, bread spreads, salad dressings, and the profits that they make from selling those, they use to then educate students from other schools to start growing their own spirulina. And they've developed these really cool starter kits that they can use to do that. And so their goal is to create this huge network of spirulina growers. Another really dynamic group that we've worked with is called Transport Revolution. So this group of girls wanted to change the way that the ticketing system works for our local rail system. And currently, it's quite an inefficient system. They use paper tickets. Sometimes the paper tickets run out. It's also not always safe standing in the queues. And so what they wanted to do was create a system where you can load airtime onto your phone, prepaid airtime, and then convert this using a USSD menu onto a card that you can swipe on transit. And so this group got really far with their project and demoed it to the rail company, which they really liked. And they even managed to find their own mentor from a local cell phone network provider. Another really great story is our winners from 2013, our first innovation competition. They're called Varsity, and what they're doing is trying to bridge the gap between high school and university using a mobile web application. What it does is provides clear and precise information on how to get into university, what sort of careers are available and things to study. And it provides quick links to application forms. It also has a mentorship platform where students can get advice in their first year to try prevent or try lower the dropout rates in university. So this is a really inspiring story that we've documented in this short video. So I've provided the link here, and we'll provide the link in the presentation description as well. So in terms of our impact, we've had roughly 900 applicants so far and funded 23 projects in Cape Town, with making $16,000 of funding available. However, I'd say that the real impact isn't so much the numbers, but the qualitative difference and personal impact that we're seeing in the students. And I think a large part of that is the mindset shift that we're seeing within the young people. So rather than a mindset of dependency or expecting aid from international organizations or even local government, we're really seeing young people saying things like, I see problems as opportunities to offer a solution. They're also gaining really great soft skills and confidence that they can use to initiate and manage projects through actually experiencing going through a project themselves, which I think is a hugely valuable skill that they can use for the rest of their lives. And a great example of that is Lutando. And I just want to share a bit of his journey with you. So Lutando entered the Innovate the competition in Innovate the Cape competition in 2013, and was not even very confident to enter the competition in the first place. We needed to encourage him quite a lot to even enter, but got in and managed to teach himself how to develop his mobile web application. Went on to win the competition, and then got placed at a local business incubator called R Labs, where he managed to develop his mobile web application, Varsity. So they launched that at the end of last year, and subsequently have just taken off. So their app is doing really well. They've been invited to several speaking engagements. His partner, Sinetemba, was invited to the Rockefeller Foundation conference in New York. Lotando, earlier this year, attended a conference in London called the EdTech Europe Conference. But the thing that really excites me is that they've gone on to start all sorts of other initiatives. So Lutando's been involved with a group called Dine with Khayelitsha. So Khayelitsha is a local township in Cape Town, which is a kind of rural, an urban fringe area, low income area, and it's not frequented by people from Cape Town very often, especially at night. And so what they're trying to do is get people to come and see that Khayelitsha isn't as bad as a lot of people expect, and have a rich cultural experience around a meal. And so try to bridge divides through that. They've also started a few other programs. One of them is called Have Fun. And what they're trying to do there is tutor primary school students, and they do that through playing a lot of games. They've also started another thing called the School of Life, which is about training high school students in innovation, leadership, design, and entrepreneurship. And that's, I think, something that's really exciting, because it shows that there's this real hunger to pass on the knowledge and experiences that they've received through the experiences that they've had. So to go back to the topic of the presentation, how do we go from Aid in Africa to Made in Africa? And I think I'd be the first person to say that grassroots innovation isn't the whole solution. There's some very serious issues that places like Cape Town and the rest of South Africa and developing countries are facing. And that, yes, grassroots innovation isn't going to solve it all, but I think it has a very valuable place. And by nature, grassroots innovations deliver very sustainable solutions to local problems. And what's really great is that the youth that are involved in those spaces understand the community so well, and they understand the problems very well, which makes them the best people to solve those problems. And I think it's the experience of actually going through a process of solving something. And a phrase that we often use is they learn to make and they make to learn. And through the experience of doing that, they're learning design and business skills that they can use as empowered individuals to take into the public sector, the private sector, and make real changes there. I think it's also really valuable to prevent youth disenfranchisement. We're seeing really high unemployment rates and so on. There are a lot of, excuse me, a lot of associated dangers that come with that. And so I think that if we can empower individuals by trusting them to run these projects, by actually funding them to do so, giving them a network and personal support, skills training, and so on. And if we can do all of the above, we'll have a generation of problem solvers that will have what it takes to really change the world. So thanks so much for listening. And we're actually running a campaign at the moment to support our current finalists. So if you follow the link here, we have a partnership with an American-based organization. So if you're a US-based donor, you can get tax benefits through donating here. And by doing so, you can help us go from Aid in Africa to Made in Africa. So thank you very much.
Very nice, Stefan. Wonderful, wonderful, cool stuff you guys have got going. I was excited to see any number of the pieces of the presentation, including the mention of the Kelvin Doe video. Our very first meeting as the Rotary eClub of Silicon Valley, that was the video that was there to inspire people to understand what we were hoping to do as a club, you know, in terms of helping others. So wonderful that you also have been inspired by that story. Very cool.
Wonderful, yes.
Now, a couple of questions about some of the things you're doing. When we think about grassroots innovation, right? You know, so much of this comes down to inspiring young people, right? Just to give them that sense of there are possibilities out there. As you started working in Kailicha and other places, did you find that there were particular challenges in getting young people to understand that you really do have this kind of system in place to help them take their creativity to another level and to do something with it that could be quite powerful for their communities? I mean, what kind of barriers did you encounter when you first started that?
Yes, so we certainly faced quite a few barriers. One of the hardest things for us to do is actually just get applicants. So we find that a lot of students aren't too familiar, even with, so we have language barriers. The word innovation may not really mean anything to a lot of the students that we work with. There's also just a sense of never having done something like this before. Pretty much all of the students that have come through our program have never had to run a project like this before. And so it's really daunting and kind of like this big black mysterious box that they're entering into. And so it's really a matter of trying to introduce them into that experience in the most non-threatening way possible, I suppose. Yeah, there are many barriers that I could speak of, but I think another really huge one is, I guess, just our schooling system, where there's a lot of rote learning. Being very curious and kind of challenging the status quo isn't really encouraged at all. And so for students to come to like, hey, I've got this novel solution to change what's happening, just isn't really encouraged. And there isn't, I wouldn't say that there's a culture that really supports that. So those are kind of the barriers that we're seeing with that.
I think that kind of culture is more the exception than the rule here in the United States as well. I mean, even here in Silicon Valley and a lot of our schools, education is my field. It's hard to find places where the idea is to really cut students loose and to give them room to take an idea and just run with it, and are the pieces in place in order to support them as they develop those ideas. How do you make contact with the students? How do they learn about you?
So that we've had a lot of bad experiences with that that we've learned from. So initially we tried to do largely media campaigns and just make very quick presentations with schools and try hit as many as we could very quickly. That really didn't work. What we have found though is pretty much the only way that it really works is if you spend time with students and build relationships. So it really does come through trust. And as an example, we had another youth organization that we worked through that works with 100 students from Kailicha in 3 different grades. So there were 300 students in total. With one group, we just did a short presentation. The second group we did 2 workshops with, and the final group we did 3 workshops with. And I think in the first group we had 1 person apply, in the second group we had about 5, and then in the last group we had about 20. So that was a very good example of what kind of efforts you need to go through in order to kind of build those relationships and get people to apply.
I think when we think about any kind of technology-enabled community, as well, when we think about something like the online Rotary Club, there's that concern that people are just a little too disconnected from each other, in that it's impersonal, right? You're kind of behind this screen doing this at 4 a.m. on Saturday or whenever you're doing this. But as we've done socials in this area, where we're doing kind of online gatherings via Hangout and getting to know each other and telling each other stories, I think we're getting into that space. As you do more telling the stories of the people who have been part of your programs, it goes from just being an idea to being kind of a proven quantity. It's not just here's something you can do, but here's a person who did something you can do, who's from your very same community. Do you find that the stories of the successes so far are accelerating how people think about taking part in Innovate SA?
Yes, definitely. That's another thing that we've realized in a big way. And so what we've actually gone about doing is documenting these stories. And so I gave one of those links in the presentation to our Inspiring Stories page, where we've included not only our previous finalists' stories, but several stories from around South Africa and Africa. And we've put those all in similar formats, which we're also hoping will give students and whoever's reading them sort of an insight into how to think about a problem. So it starts with the problem, goes to the challenge, then the insights into that challenge, and then providing the solution. So we've got a group of those stories documented, which we've really found helpful in spreading the word about what is innovation and how can you think about problems as challenges rather than just problems. But another thing that we've found is that that's been really, really cool is getting our previous finalists as part of our team now that goes out to schools. And that just makes a world of difference. So having one of our finalists talk about, or like Lutando talking about his trip to London and showing a little video clip or photos is just, it gets the students super excited about the competition.
Very nice. Well, it'll be great to share those links as well. I'm hoping all of our people will be able to see the videos as well. The links will be just below this recording in our meeting. So make sure, those of you watching, to follow some of these and get those stories. We'll get the slides available to you as well. I noticed, Stefan, that you're using Google Docs and Google Slides for that. So we'll make sure to snag that shared bit so that we can get that easily available to all of our people. You also mentioned that there is a web development program for girls. Now, is that a program that you guys launched, or was it the result of an idea from one of your applicants? How does that program work?
So the web development program is called Code for Cape Town, and that was something that our team launched. So my colleague Emma runs that, and that started last year. And the idea behind that is really to get girls interested in IT as a tool. I think the stat is that something like 1 in 7 people in IT are women. So that's something that we're trying to really overcome and introduce girls from a young age to not just learning, okay, here's how you do a website, but how can I use this website for something that I really care about? And so what we do is get the girls to, for example, build websites for local entrepreneurs or their schools or organizations and practically use it for something that they're passionate about so that they get really interested in IT. We also have a lot of meetups with women in tech. And so we ran a camp last year for our initial program with 25 girls, and this year had 65 girls. So that program is growing quite rapidly, which is great to see.
That's fantastic. And is there kind of the talk about having an app development program, kind of aligned with it in some fashion?
Yes, so we've been trying to grow that program to actually form a full 18-month program. So girls in grade 11, which is our second to last year in South Africa, can have an 18-month program going through their final year, and even potentially a post-matric program that we're hopefully going to launch next year, where we can do several modules that would include things like app development. Yes.
Very nice. So last question for you, actually, about your background. You mentioned that I think your degree is in Mechatronics.
Correct.
That is not a term that is readily familiar to me, but I've heard it before in talking with people from South Africa. So can you describe a little bit about that and how that might have been the seeds to be interested in doing something like Innovate the Cape?
Sure. So yes, it's a quite a cool study name. I think that's one of the reasons I chose it. I'm just kidding, but so Mechatronics is kind of, as the name suggests, a combination of mechanical and electronics. So it's a kind of a combinational engineering degree. We learn how to build robots, and we do a bit of coding as well. And so I think what happened for me is that what I was really interested in is the problem-solving aspect and how engineers think, as opposed to specifically what they do. And I've always had a passion for development and education as well. And so my dream was basically to apply the kind of problem-solving way of thinking, which doesn't necessarily require a lot of technical skill, and apply that to social problems. And so that was kind of the birth of thinking about, well, how can we kind of bring this way of thinking to people who really need it in the local townships, etc.
Very nice. All right. Well, in just a minute, I'll ask you to kind of give our members and guests kind of a last word, last thought, last piece of encouragement, your chance for a very short manifesto, whatever it may be. To all of our members and guests, I want to thank you for joining us this week. I hope you will come back and visit us often. We love bringing wonderfully innovative stories to Rotary and to those who are curious about Rotary's mission of service above self. How can we use technology to serve the business of servants? That is a question for us. And as you come and visit, you'll notice in our meetings that we talk about all the kind of different things that are we've got going. We're hoping to inspire people, through the stories and the videos, get good information out there about what's happening in Rotary and the world, and then share these wonderful programs. After the program, you're not done. Make sure to scroll down a little bit. You will see a survey that is titled "I Attended," and you want to fill that out. If you are a Rotarian, filling out that survey will accurately get an email to you that you can turn around to your club secretary so that you can get a makeup if you are making up a missed meeting at your own club. Additionally, at the very bottom of the page, you will see the Discuss system, DISQUS. And by creating a quick login or by using your Facebook account or whatever you like, you can add a comment to the meeting. And what you'll see in the comments below, particularly if you are watching this later in the week, is the discussion that can take place about the ideas. How do people react to these things? What kind of things are they thinking about when they see the reports about the different programs for kids in places like Kailicha? So we hope that you will both fill out the survey so that we'll know you're here. We'll send you a little email just thanking you for showing up, and we won't put you on some list that spams you all the time. Don't worry about that. What we want to do is we just want to stay in touch. So please fill out that survey and please leave a comment. So with that, Stefan, I am happy to kind of give you the last word on this. So what is your thought for our group?
So I think my greatest hope from sharing this story is just that it really inspires you for what the potential of young people is in Africa. I think that there's a huge amount that can happen if we just really put our kind of faith in what young people can do, and by actually backing them with real support through whatever it is, funding. But I think the greatest thing really is through relationships. And so my encouragement to you would be that if you ever have the opportunity to be involved with a program like this or form relationships with young people and help them with innovation and entrepreneurship, etc., that you go ahead and do that. Thanks very much, Rushton.
Perfect. That's a wonderful. Well, thank you again for your time. Thank you, everyone, for visiting. Make sure to fill out that survey and add a comment, and we will look forward to seeing you next week.